So let's maybe do this guy where we're at it. Okay, and I think I'll just do this in max. So I'm just going to go in isolation mode, Alt Q, make it a little easier to see. Okay, and we'll apply our checker pattern. Alright, and let's put an unwrap on this. Okay, and edit. Alright, and I'm just going to shrink this down a bit. Alright, so we'll do this the same way. Let's just go to face and select the whole element. Okay, and then we'll just do a flatten mapping on it and hit OK. Alright, and I'm just going to space some of these pieces out so I can see a bit better. Alright, and we'll go back to edge, turn off synced element, and we'll just stitch a couple of times. Alright, so grab this one, stitch selected, grab the bottom one, stitch selected. Alright, and we have the sides here. Let's just grab this chunk and move it up. Okay, so we're going to have to stitch the sides back on. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in here on the middle and just grab this one here and stitch. Okay, just to stitch it back on, and we'll do the same at the other end. Stitch. Okay, and we're going to have some little chamfer pieces down here that we're going to have to put back together. Okay, so they go right in here. So I'm just going to zoom in and just select these three edges, holding control, and stitch. Alright, just like that. Do the same thing down here, these three, stitch. And we'll go to the other end and do the same thing. Alright, one more time. Stitch. Okay, and we can weld these verts up. Alright, so let's go to vertex, and I'm just going to right click and go to target weld. Okay, and we'll just drag this one, and it's just like the edges, the corresponding verts will turn blue. Okay, so we'll drag this over, and when the cursor changes to a white cross, we'll let go. Okay, and you'll notice the edge turns white. You just want to make sure it goes white, else it's still not welded. Alright, it'll still be open seam there. Alright, so just like that. Do this quickly. Okay, and then a couple down the other end. Just get those out of the way. Alright, so this one to here, this one to here. Alright, just like that. Alright, so that piece is done. Okay, so let's turn face back on and tick on synced element and just select the whole chunk, and let's go back into the viewport and just exit isolation mode. Okay, zoom in here, and they're upside down again, so I'm just going to flip it 180. Okay, and again you can use rotate to do that, doesn't matter. Alright, so let's just scale this down a little bit, try to get our checkers to be a little bigger. Alright, maybe like that, that's probably fine. Okay, and we'll just drag it and drop it outside of the 0 to 1 and close this. Alright, so that piece is done. So just a few more to go. Alright, let's do the little keyhole next, I think. Alright, just gonna hit Z. Alright, I might take this out and do this in UVLayout, I think. Okay, so let's select it and export selected. Alright, we'll just call this keyhole, or whatever you like, and save, and export. Done. And we'll go out to the desktop, dump our base one that we don't need anymore, and just drop this on the icon, and load. Alright, so I think I'll just hack this up a bit. It's really small, so I'm not too concerned about the seams. So the first thing I do is just cut the inside of the circle out, or the hole there. Okay, so with my edges set to 10, I'm just going to grab maybe this loop right here, hit C, okay, and enter to detach. Alright, and again you can always hold the spacebar on the middle mouse button and just drag that piece over to the side so you can see a bit better. Alright, so let's just cut this one more time, just somewhere up on the inside where you're never going to see it. So C, and then we'll do Shift S to split, and D to drop. Okay. Alright, so for this piece I think I'm just going to cut the whole face off. That'll probably be the easiest way. So let's maybe grab this loop right here, hit C, C, okay, all the way around, and enter. Alright, break it off, and D to drop it. Alright, and this one, I'm just going to cut it somewhere down here. And Shift S to split, and D to drop. Alright, back into the UV view. Alright, Shift F on the first piece, spacebar. We'll just give this one a second. Might not get it perfectly straight, but it shouldn't matter, you're never going to see that anyway. Alright, so say that's cool, spacebar to end it. Alright, same thing with this, Shift F, spacebar. You can see slight pink here, so we'll have a slight stretching, but that's okay. It's so tiny, you're never going to notice. Alright, so we'll just end it with spacebar. And do the same thing here, Shift F, spacebar. Let it get kind of straight. It might start to actually bend it, but we'll just stop it maybe right there. Okay, so really quick job on this, but again, it's so tiny, it's not really going to matter in this case. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate that, maybe put it there, and maybe just spin this one and put it underneath. And we'll figure out what we want to do with this when we lay our UV sheet out. Okay, so let's just hit auto fit to fit it in, and go back to 3D, hit T. Alright, not too bad, not perfect, but that's okay. And we'll just save. Alright, add the H, save it out. Okay, dismiss it, and close and exit. Alright, let's dump the original, and go back into Max, and delete that one with delete, and import the new one. Alright, select it, open, and OK. Alright, just gonna hit Z. Alright, so let's put the checker pattern on here. Okay, and let's convert it back to low poly. Alright, change the color back to black. Okay, and we'll just throw the unwrap on this as well. And edit. Okay, so what I might do for this piece is just go to Edge, turn off Synced Element, and I think I might just stitch the side back onto the face. Alright, let's grab maybe this middle edge here and just stitch. Alright, just so they're attached together. Alright, one less piece we'll have to worry about moving around. Okay, so just like that. And again, it's not perfect, but it shouldn't matter for this little tiny detail. Okay, so we'll select them all, and let's just scale this way down. Alright, this doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be very big on our UVs. Alright, so pretty much just like that, I guess, and we'll just stick it up here. Okay, and you can do this a different way if you want to take more time, but just for the sake of speed, I'm just going to leave it like that, and we'll close this and turn off the unwrap. Okay, and we might want to put a smooth modifier back on it just to make sure, so let's just do that quickly. Okay, smooth and then auto smooth. Alright, so we're just left with the legs and the feet down at the bottom, and we'll just map one of each and then replace our other ones. Okay, so let's grab the leg here, any one of them, and we'll put the unwrap on. I'll just do this in Max. Alright, edit. Just move this over so we can see what we're doing. Let's apply our checker pattern to it. Alright, try to zoom in here. Okay, so let's do it the same way back to face with Synced Element turned on. Select it, and we'll flatten map it again. And OK. Alright, and then we'll just stitch a couple of these back together. Alright, I'm just going to be careful not to put the seam on the outside. Alright, so we can try to hide it. Okay, so let's turn off Synced Element. Alright, so stitch. And stitch. And stitch. Okay, just like that. So one little strip. It's really, really simple, but again, it's a really tiny detail and we don't need to worry too much about it. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate it so it's everything's up in the right direction, and then we'll scale it. Alright, we'll go way down on this. Alright, maybe just like that, and then we'll just drag it outside of the 0 to 1 and drop it. Okay. Alright, so we'll say that's good enough for the leg. Let's do the little foot pad. Alright, this will be our last piece. And I might take this out and actually do this in UVLayout. Okay, so let's select it and export it. Feel free to do it in Max if you want to, but I think we're going to take it out. Alright, so we'll name it foot pad. Save, export, done. Alright, back to the desktop. Let's get rid of that keyhole and just drag this over onto Headus. Okay, and load. Alright, so this is really, really simple, and it's a small detail, so I'm just gonna, I think, cut the top off. Alright, so let's just grab a loop here, maybe this bottom one, and just hit C. And C. Alright, just so it goes all the way around, and then we'll detach the top with Enter. Okay, and drop it with D. Alright, and then for the sides here, I'm just gonna cut it into two pieces, so let's cut it there, and cut it there with C, and Shift S to split, and D to drop. Alright, open up the display panel, just hit 3D and then hit UV, Alright, so let's do Shift F on this piece. It might get a little bit of stretching on the top of that bevel piece, but it shouldn't be too bad, so we'll just hit spacebar. Alright, it actually looks pretty good. Okay, it's going to be very, very slight. Alright, so Shift F, spacebar. And Shift F, and spacebar. Okay, spacebar again to end it. Alright, so for this I might just move one side up there and one side below it. Okay, and I might attach that back together in Max, I'm not sure. So let's just put it like that and hit auto fit. Okay, and back to 3D view. Hit T. Alright, looks pretty good. We're going to have the seam obviously all the way around the outside, but because it's such a small detail, I'm not going to worry about it. Just going to leave it like that because I don't think you'll notice. Okay, so we'll say that's good, and let's save it out. Add the H and save. Alright, we'll just close this. That should be it for UV layout. Okay, and let's dump the original. Okay, and back into Max. Alright, dump this one with delete. Import the new one. Alright, and I forgot to rename the last piece we did, so it's asking me to change the name here, so I'm just going to call this footpad. Alright, and just say OK. Alright, Z to zoom in. Okay, and let's just throw the checker pattern on that guy. And we'll convert it back to double poly. Change the color back to black. Okay, and we'll just put the unwrap on quickly. Alright, edit. Alright, so for this I think I might just go to edge, turn off synced element, and just stitch the two sides back on. Alright, let's just grab a middle edge here. Alright, so I'm just going to select this one down here and stitch. Okay, and then we'll just select one up here and stitch. Okay, just so it's attached together, so it's a little easier when we want to move it around and scale it. Alright, all one piece. Okay, so let's scale it down. Alright, this can go down really, really small. Alright, maybe like that. Alright, and just chuck it down there. Alright, close this stuff. Alright, so our mapping's done. We're just going to have to replace our other little foot pads here. So before we do that, let's do a save, just to be safe. Alright, so now that we have the one leg and one foot pad mapped, we'll just replace these guys over here. Alright, so I'm just going to select the leg and the foot pad on our mapped one. Okay, and we'll go to move, and I'm just going to hold shift and just drag a copy over on the Y. Okay, and we'll say copy and OK. And then we'll just zoom in here. Alright, I'm just going to select the leg. Okay, and we'll just go to the align tool up here and click on this leg over here. Okay. We want to do X, Y, and Z, and just center and center, okay? And say OK. Alright, and we'll do the same thing with the foot pad. Align tool, click on this one. And same settings, and OK. Alright, just so we know they're positioned properly, and we'll just have to select the ones that aren't mapped and delete them. Okay, so just going to try to select the gray one, delete, and delete, okay? Just like that, and then we'll just do that on each one. Alright, so we'll grab both those again. Alright, shift drag on the X. And OK. Alright, just going to hit Z to zoom in. Alright, so let's select the leg. Line tool, click on that leg, and OK. And then the foot pad. And align to that foot pad, and OK. Alright, and then just try to select the one that isn't mapped, and delete it. Okay. And we'll just grab these guys, both of them again, and we'll just replace this last one. Okay, so shift and drag on the Y, copy and OK. Alright, select our leg, go to the align tool, click on this one, hit OK, and then do the same with that, and OK. Alright, and then just get the one that's not mapped and delete it. Alright, just like that. Okay. So it's now completely mapped, all our pieces. Alright, so before we actually attach anything together or organize our UVs, I'm just going to do another save, just in case we have a crash. Okay, so I think we'll use a single 2K texture for this, and I want to have everything on one texture sheet, so I'm going to attach the entire box together into one object, and that's just because I'm using Max 9. In the newer versions of Max, I'm pretty sure you don't have to attach your pieces together first. You can just select multiple objects and apply an unwrap UVW, and they'll all be added to the same texture sheet, but Max 9 doesn't work that way as far as I know, so the only way to get them all on one sheet is attach it all together. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. Just select the body, right click and convert it back to editable poly. Okay, and then we'll just go over to the rollout, open up attach, and just say all, and attach. Alright, so it's all one piece now. It's still going to remember our mapping for the separate elements, but everything's attached together in one object. Okay, so let's just add an unwrap to this, and edit. And it's still going to remember where we left all our UVs sitting, as you can see. So now it's just going to be a matter of organizing this, figuring out how we want to have this laid out for when we paint our texture, and then fitting everything into the 0 to 1. Okay, so alright, let's go to face, and I still have synced element turned on, and I'm just going to grab the body there. Alright, move that over here. Just going to try to get some of this stuff out of the way. Alright, and we'll start with the body because that's kind of going to be the focal point of the entire model. We want to make sure we give this enough space on the texture that the resolution is going to be, decent. Alright, so let's grab that, and I'm just going to go to scale and just scale this down. Alright, and just until it just fits the width of the box. Alright, maybe a tiny bit more. Alright, just like that. You don't want to go down any smaller than you have to. And the reason being is if you shrink all your UVs down and stick them down here in the corner of the 0 to 1 box and you leave all this blank, even if you're using like a 2K texture, your model's really only going to get, about 500 pixels or so of that 2K, so the resolution is going to be really, really bad. And that's why you want to try to utilize, all the space in the 0 to 1 if possible. Don't want to waste anything. I don't think we'll be able to use all of it, just based on the shape of our pieces here, but I'm going to try to really pack it in there if I can. Alright, so we'll get the biggest piece in first, and I might just move that up here actually, towards the top. Alright, maybe stick it there, and you don't want to leave it sticking out else it'll start to tile the texture. Okay, so just make sure it's fit in, and let's grab the top here, and the doors. Alright, that's the bottom door, that's the top door. I'm just going to try to organize them. Alright, so top, middle, and bottom. Okay, and let's grab the base actually up here, and let's move that down because that's probably the next biggest piece, and we'll just scale this down until it just fits in. And you could use the pack UVs function to do this. The only reason I'm doing it manually is just because I want to have control of how it's laid out in Photoshop. Okay, so let's just fit the base in like that at the bottom. Okay, and I think what I might do is try to fit the doors on the top in this gap right here. Alright, we might not be able to take all the space up, but we'll try. Okay, so let's just scale these all down a little bit. Zoom in here. Alright, so let's get the top figured out first. I'm just going to select that piece, and we'll move it up here. And I might just rotate this 90 degrees. Okay, and let's scale it down until it just fits in between the body and the base. Right, try to keep it as big as you can. Alright, might just stick that right there, and then let's grab the doors over here and move those over. Okay, and I'm going to try to move them so they're tightly packed together. Alright, we're still sticking out a little bit there, so let's just go over slightly. Alright, we might have a little space here, we can move this over. Alright, so just inside the box. Just want to be careful here, I don't want anything overlapping. Alright, so just like that, and we will have some wasted space down here, but it's, it's not that big a deal, it's minimal. Okay, so we'll just have to figure out how we're going to get all the rest of our pieces into the leftover space. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of move these all up to the top. And we're going to have 4 of these, and we're going to have 4 of these overlapping each other. So let's pull that down. And then we have the base, top and bottom here. Alright, so what I might do in this case is just overlap these two. Alright, and just because you're not really going to be able to see them very good, the top's going to be hidden by the body, and the bottom's obviously going to be underneath, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. it's not always a good idea to overlap your UVs, depending on what you're doing, but in this case, it's not really going to matter if they have the same texture or not. Alright, so let's just move them in here. I might just stick them overlap in the body, or the base body. Okay, so I'm just going to stick them maybe right like there. And it'll just get the same texture as the base, okay? Just to save some space, and then we'll go up to the top here, and let's get the slot, and maybe scale that down a little bit. I might just stick that maybe right there for now, okay? And then we're going to have the foot pads. Let's drag these guys out. And again, you could leave these overlapping if you wanted to. They're really small, and you probably wouldn't notice if they had the same texture, but I'm going to try to give them unique space. Okay, so we'll drag them out like that, and let's grab all 4 of them, and we'll just scale them down. I'm going to try to stick them right in here underneath the slot. Alright, so we'll just go down. Alright, just till they just fit in. Alright, you can probably move the slot up a bit. Alright, just want to make sure it's not overlapping any of the body there. Okay, so maybe just like that, and then we still have the keyhole and the 4 leg pieces. Okay, so I'm going to drag the legs out, give them some unique space, okay, and then we'll just take a couple at a time, and I might put 2 over here. Alright, I might just offset them a bit, and I might scale them down a little farther. Let's just move that one up, and this one over here. Alright, so I'm just going to grab both those and just scale them down slightly until they fit in, without overlapping anything. I might move that up a bit. Okay, just like that, and we'll do the same with these 2 on the other side. Alright, just scale them down slightly. Alright, we'll just stick them up here. Maybe stick this one right there. Alright, just like that. Okay, and then we still have the keyhole here, and this is really, really tiny, so I'm just going to try to fit it into this space right here. Okay, and I'm just going to scale it down until it fits. Alright, maybe like that. Okay. And I think that's all our pieces. Alright, looks like it. Alright, so just like that. And we're utilizing, most of the space. We have some wasted, but that's okay. Alright, so we'll say that's good for the UVs. Let's just minimize this for now. Alright, take a look here. Alright, so you can see the resolution has changed from what we had before. You can see the ones on the base, the checkers, are quite a bit bigger than they are on the body, and before they were even. And that's just because we scaled the base UVs down quite a bit more than we did the ones for the body. So these are taking up less space in the 0 to 1 than the body UVs. Okay, and therefore the body is going to have a slightly higher res part of the texture than this will, because it has more pixel space on the map, if that makes sense. Okay, but it's not drastic, and I don't think you'll really notice when we're done, so I'm just going to leave it like it is. Okay, overall it looks pretty even. Okay, so now that our mapping's done, let's just do a save so we don't have to redo any of that if we have a crash. Alright, so I'm just going to close this and just turn off the unwrap for now, and I think that'll do it for the mapping and this part of the tutorial. So I'm going to end it here, and in the next part we'll actually render out a UV template that we can use in Photoshop as a guide to our texture painting, and we'll also render out a quick ambient occlusion pass from in here as well. We'll add some depth to our texture maps. Okay, but we'll call this one done, and hopefully I'll see you in the next part. Thanks for watching. Okay, so to fix this, I think what I might do is actually see if I can get rid of this this rusty colored crap down here on the base. Okay, so that's on this layer here, our color variation layer. That's causing that, as you can see if you turn it off. Alright, so I think what I might do is actually just delete it off the base on that layer. Okay, so I'm going to drag a selection around the base with the selection tool. Okay, and we'll just grab this one while we're at it, holding down shift, okay, just to add to our selection. And on the color variation 2 layer, I'm just going to delete that by hitting delete. Okay, I think it's a little too intense. Alright, so that's a little better. It's back to our gray that we want. We might still have to tone it down a little bit, but we can always worry about that later. Okay, and I was actually planning on adding some stuff splattered on here, so I think if we do that, it's going to be really, really intense looking, so I might try to fix that right now, okay, before we add any kind of splattered stuff on there. Alright, so let's go down to our base dirt layer. Okay, and that's the one that's causing all this dark stuff up here. Alright, so what I might do on that one is just actually see if I can erase a bit of it. Alright, so let's go to the eraser, and again I'm just going to kind of take this down a little bit on the upper part, just randomly. And you can mask this out if you want to. Alright, so just like that, maybe, just to get some of our color back, and it doesn't look so crazy intense now. Okay, so I think that's a little bit of an improvement. Again, we will make some tweaks later on. Okay, so let's just check this out in Max before we go any farther. Alright, so I'm going to save it, jump back into Max, and we'll just take a look here. Alright, so it's a little better. It's still looking a little too intense, I think, down here, a little too dark. Okay, so we'll go back. So let's tone this down a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to go down to the base grime layer right here. Okay, that's the one that's pretty dark there. So let's take the opacity down a little bit on this, just to tone it down a bit so it's not so wicked intense. Alright, I might go down to maybe 60% or so on the opacity. Okay, so that's a little bit of an improvement. Alright, so I think we can move on. And we'll add some stuff splattered on here, just so it looks like, you know, stuff got kicked up. Alright, so let's just do a quick save now that we made those changes. Alright, so let's open up another map. And I have these two splatter patterns here. We'll probably end up using both of them, but I'm going to try the first one first. Okay, so we'll open up that. Alright, this is obviously, you know, larger splatter. So let's copy it, Control A, Control C. And we'll paste this on, Control V. Alright, so let's shrink it down with Control T. Alright, scale it on the corner with Shift. And again, you know, this will depend on how you know, dirty and wrecked you want your box to look. You don't have to add all this stuff. Alright. We don't want to overdo it. Alright, so we'll just try it. If it doesn't look right, we'll get rid of it. Okay, so let's put it like that maybe, and then we'll copy it and paste it. Control A, C, and V. Alright, I'm just going to kind of towel this along the bottom. So I'm going to flip that one horizontally. And we'll get rid of some of the stuff that tiles in a second. Just want to kind of fill the whole span here, so paste again. Alright, let's flip this one horizontally. Okay. Alright, so let's combine them. All three, Control E. Alright, and we'll just tone this down a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is just delete the upper part of it, so it's not overlapping our top. Alright, so we'll delete, get rid of it, and I'm just going to see if I can use the healing brush to get rid of some of this stuff here. Okay, so we'll Alt-click. Alright, I'm just going to try to paint some of this out. It might not work too good on this, which doesn't look like it's going to, but we'll try. Alright, just get rid of it. We're going to change the blend mode so you don't have to worry about it too much if it's perfect. Alright, we'll just take some of it out so it doesn't look like it's just repeating over and over again. Okay, maybe just like that, and again, you can take more time and actually, you know, get it the way you want. For the sake of speed, though, I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so let's set the mode here to multiply for the blend options. Okay, and that's going to take it down to a pretty dark color again, so let's lower the opacity to brighten it up. And again, I want these to be really, really subtle. So we'll just do maybe like 40%, just so you can see them a little bit. Okay, but not overpowering. And let's name it something. Okay, I'm just going to call it maybe base splatter large. Alright, because I think I'll add some smaller splatter marks as well. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, so let's open up our smaller splatter pattern. Alright, splatter 2. Okay, and these are really tiny droplets, so we'll just copy the whole thing again. And go back to our map. Alright, and just paste it on top of our splatter large with Control V. Okay, and let's do Control T on it. Alright, I'm going to scale these down pretty small. I just want to give the appearance that maybe some mud or water drops or other crap got splashed up onto the bottom of our box. So we're going to take it down pretty small. Alright, and I think I'll get rid of the top of this, so I'm just going to worry about having it along the bottom. Okay, let's undo that. I'm just going to copy this layer again, Control A, C, and V. Alright, I'm just going to try to hide this seam in the crack there, so you won't really notice it. Okay, and let's flip it, Control T, right click, flip horizontal. Okay, get them kind of lined up. Alright, let's combine both layers. Layer 1 and 2, Control E, then we'll copy that, Control A, C, and V, paste it again, and then we'll just continue along here. Okay, just like that, and let's combine those two, 2 and 3, Control E. Okay, and let's just name it while we're at it before we forget. So I'm just going to call this base splatter small. Okay, and we'll set the mode to multiply on this guy as well. Alright, and I think I'm going to maybe use a mask to get rid of this top edge here, but first I'm just going to do a save. Okay. Alright, I might actually move this layer down a little bit so it's a little closer to the bottom. Alright, we'll just go so maybe the stuff's on just the bottom half. Alright, just so it's not all over the place. Okay, like that. And let's go up here, we can actually just close some of these. I'm just going to get rid of this and this one. Okay, and we don't really need this open either, so let's close that. Alright, so I think I'll use a mask for this, so I'm just going to go out and open up one of my grunge maps. Right, back in the texture source folder. Okay, and I'm just going to use the grunge 2.1 again that we used earlier. Alright, so we'll open this up, and I'm just going to actually invert it with Control I. Okay, and when you're working with a mask, everything black or dark is going to be hidden, and everything white is going to actually show through from the layer underneath. Okay, so we'll just invert it. Okay, and let's do Control A and Control C, and we'll close that and just go back. Alright, into our splatter small layer, and I'm just going to go down here and hit this button here, which is Add Layer Mask. Okay, hit that, and then I'm going to click on the mask box. Alright, and we'll just go into the channels. Alright, and I'm going to turn on the mask channel here. Okay, and we'll just paste with Control V. Alright, it's going to paste and it's going to show up red. Okay, so we'll just position it. Alright, I might actually stretch this to fit the whole width. Okay, so we'll do Control T, and then I'm just going to shift drag the corner. Alright, just to get the full width. Okay, and we'll just maybe move this down. I'm just going to hit enter. Right, maybe something like that. Okay, and then we'll just go back to the layers panel and just click on our map box there. Okay. Alright, as you can see, it actually hid quite a bit of our splatter pattern there. You can always disable the mask by right clicking on it and just say disable layer mask to see the difference. Okay, and then click it to turn it back on. Alright, so I think it might have hid a little too much. There's really no indication that that's even there. So what I might do is just click on the mask again, and we'll just do a levels adjustment on it. So image adjustments, levels. Okay, and I might just tweak this a bit to see if we can get some of our splatter pattern back. Okay, so I'm just going to move this over a bit. Alright, because this is going to actually brighten up the mask, it's going to let more of that show through. Alright, you can see it kind of coming back there. Alright, so just tweak it a bit, just so we get some of it back. Okay, and then we'll say okay. Alright, so that's a little better there. You can see we got a bit of a seam across the top here. Alright, so I'm just going to try to get rid of that. So I'm just going to make sure the mask is active, and I'm just going to paint with black right on the mask. Okay, so we'll go to the paintbrush, and I'm just using a soft brush for this. Okay, might make this a little bigger. Okay, and I just have black as my color, and I'm just going to paint actually on the mask. Okay, so it'll hide that seam, as you can see. Alright, you might have to adjust this, based on your brightness. But I'm just going to get rid of it until I can't see it anymore. Okay, and you can see where you're painting in the mask there. Okay, so that's probably good for this. Alright, so let's do another save. Okay, so we don't have too much left to do. We're getting pretty close, but before we actually start painting our scratches and dings in the paint, we should probably just add the remaining text that we haven't done yet. Okay, so I'm just going to open up that reference picture I had earlier, this one here. Alright, so up at the top here we have some text on the actual door for the slot, and we also have it on the handle here for the upper door. Okay, so for this we'll just use the text tool and actually type it in. So let's go back, and I might actually put the text layer right above the collection times layer here. Okay, so we'll just select that, and then we'll zoom in here on the upper door. Alright, we want it right on this edge here, so let's go to the text tool, and we'll just click. Okay, and we'll just type in what we need. And like I mentioned in the intro, I can't read French at all, so I just went ahead and wrote it down earlier, so I know what I need to put here. Okay, and we're going to do it in capitals. Alright, so we'll just put pole. And then we have a dash. Okay, and then we have the French, which is T-I-R-E-Z. Okay, no idea what it actually says. I assume it's pole, but who knows. Alright, so we'll just move that down and kind of center it on the middle of this lip here. Okay, and then let's actually open up the character box. So I'm going to go into the window menu, down to character. Alright, we'll just open this up. Okay, so I'm going to use Arial text, and I'm going to do bold. And we'll use maybe 10 pixels on this. The size looks pretty good. Okay, and I have 400 set here for the kerning, and I also have 135% in the text height here if you want to match it. Okay, and for the color, I'm just going to open that up, and I already know what color I want to use here because I did a test earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to type it into the number box down here. Okay, and it's 475489. Okay, I just figure that's pretty close to the color we need. Okay, and you can adjust it if you want to. Alright, so we'll do that, use these settings here, and then just to give it more of the appearance that's actually kind of punched into the surface, I'm just going to add a layer effect to this layer. Okay, so let's go up to layer, down to layer style, and we'll go over and I'm just going to add an inner shadow to it. Okay, so we'll open this up. Alright, and what I'm going to try to do is just give the appearance that it's actually kind of recessed in a little bit. Okay, so for the color here, let's just open that up and we'll just do kind of a darker version of what color we have, the purplish. Okay, I mean the effect's going to be really, really subtle anyway, so we don't need to worry about the color too much. Alright, we'll just choose a darker shade like that. Again, use whatever shade you want. Okay, and I'm going to leave the angle at 120, and the distance I'm going to take it down to maybe 1 pixel. Alright, and for the size here, when we lower that, you'll notice it looks more noticeable. It gets sharper. Okay, so I'm going to take the size right down to 0. Okay, and it looks a little too intense. Let's take the opacity down too. Alright, just a bit. Let's go down to maybe like 40 or 50. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. And okay. Alright, so that's probably fine for that. Again, it is really, really tiny. Alright, so I'm just going to try to center it. Alright, so that's probably good for the first text layer. Okay, and we still have one more to go. Alright, we got the push up here on this door, so let's do that. Okay, before we do that though, I'm just going to do a save. Alright, so let's just navigate over to the slot, which is up at the top here. Alright, just get this out of the way. Alright, and I think for this one I'm actually going to just put it above the slot metal layer. Okay, so let's go back to the text tool and we'll just click up here. Alright, and again, I did some tests ahead of time, so I know what size I'm going to use. Alright, I'm going to try maybe 12. Alright, and for the color here, I'm just going to change that to maybe just a darker gray. Okay, and let's just type it. So we needed to say push. Okay, and then we have a dash, and then the French, which is P-O-U-S-S-E-Z. Okay, just like that. Alright, let's just check the reference picture again. Okay, so it might need to go a little bigger on the text. Alright, so let's just select it with the text tool. Alright, let's take the size up to maybe 14, just so it's a little taller. Okay, and we'll just move it down and kind of center it in the middle of our slot here. Alright, and I'm just going to see what it looks like on regular. Alright, you'll notice the text is a little thinner here than it is down here. And we use bold for the blower stuff, so let's maybe just switch this to Arial regular. Okay, 14 pixels, and I still have the height set at 135 and 400 for the kerning. Alright, and I think that's probably fine. So we'll just close the character box. Alright, so let's add our little text effect to this as well. So we'll go into the layer menu, layer style, inner shadow. Okay, and for this we'll basically do it the same way. So I'm going to take the distance down to maybe 1 pixel, size down to 0. Okay, and let's put a color in here. Alright, it's going to be really slight on this one because we're not using very thick text, so it's going to be kind of hard to see. So I'm just going to use maybe a lighter shade of gray. Alright, I might take the distance down to 0 here, just because I think if we go up we're not even going to notice it. Okay, so we'll do 0, 0, 0, 120, and let's just tweak this. Alright, you'll see it's not making much difference here. It's probably really not even going to be noticeable, so we'll just do it at 40 again and just leave it. Okay, and if you want to tweak that, that's fine, you can, but we'll just move on. Alright, so the effect's really slight. Just going to turn my UVs on again. I just want to make sure it's actually centered on here. Alright, from top to bottom. Okay, looks pretty good. So we'll say that's cool for the second text layer. Alright, let's just close up the effects drop down there, and we'll do another save now that that's done. Alright, so let's just zoom back out so we can actually see our map. I'm just going to close that reference picture again, we don't really need it. Okay, so let's go over to max and actually see how it looks. Alright, so I think we're about the right size. Alright, this looks like it could go up a little bit maybe. This one looks okay. I might just move this one up just slightly. Alright, but we won't worry about it too much. Alright, let's just zoom in here on the top. Okay, with our text layer selected, I'm just going to push it up just slightly. Okay, and then we'll save again. Alright, back over to max, just see if that looks a little better. Alright, so that's more centered. Alright, so that's not looking too bad. And I think we can start actually painting in the scratches and damage to the paint now. Okay, so to do that I'm just going to make a new layer. Okay, so let's maybe put it above the color variation 2 layer for now. And we might reorder these after, but for now we'll stick it here, so create a new layer above it. Okay, and we'll just make a quick custom brush that we can actually use to paint our scratches. Alright, just make it a little quicker and easier to do. Okay, so let's go to the paintbrush. Alright, I'm just going to go up here to the pull down and just change it to chalk buildup. Okay, and we'll start with that. Alright, I'm also going to change the size a little bit. I want to have it a bit smaller, so we'll do maybe like 11 or 12 pixels. Okay, I like to use a small brush when I do it. Alright, and then let's open up the brush panel. Alright, you can hit F5 or you can find it in the window menu here, brushes. Okay, and this will just let you actually tweak your brush tip. Okay, so let's go up to the shape dynamics first. I'm just going to turn off dual brush here. Alright, so in the shape dynamics we'll just tweak some of these sizes and try to get this to look more like a scratch kind of pattern. Okay, so I'm going to take the size jitter way up to like 95% or so. Alright, I'm going to switch this control to pen pressure because I will be using a tablet to actually paint my scratches. And if you have a tablet, I'd highly recommend using a tablet to do that because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to do with a tablet than it would be with the mouse. It's not impossible to do it with a mouse, it's just going to be a lot more time consuming and hard to get it to look the way you want. You'll have to keep tweaking your brush. Okay, so yeah, if you have a tablet I'd use it. If you don't have a tablet I'd recommend buying one for sure. It's a really good investment to make. They're not that expensive. I just have a tiny little Wacom tablet that's like 3 by 5 inches. It's the smallest one they make, but it makes this stuff a lot easier, and if you do any kind of sculpting in ZBrush or Mudbox, it's pretty much a must-have. So yeah, good investment to make. Alright, so I'm just going to change it to pen pressure because I'm going to be using the pen. Okay, and the minimum diameter, I'm just going to tweak that a little bit. Let's take it up like 5%. Alright, angle jitter we'll tweak. Alright, you can see down here in real time updating it. Okay, so we'll just go until it looks about right. Take that down a little bit. Do like 9, okay, and then I'm going to leave the control here off for that. Okay, the roundness jitter, I'm going to take that up a little bit. Let's go up pretty high. We'll go up to maybe 50 or 60%. I'm going to leave the control for that off as well, and I'm just going to tick on flip X and flip Y. Okay, and let's go into the scattering menu. Okay, and for the scatter, I'm just going to tick on both axes. Okay, and we'll just tweak this a little bit. Alright, this is pretty touchy, as you can see. If you go up too high, it's going to break it apart. So we'll keep it low, maybe like 9 or 10%. Okay, I'm going to leave the control for that off as well. The count, I think I'll leave at 1. Alright, you don't want it to be too dense, so let's leave that at 1, and the count jitter I'm going to take up pretty high. Let's go up to like 90%. Okay, and I am going to set this one to pen pressure as well. Okay, so basically a little scratchy looking brush. Okay, and you can tweak that, more if you want to, but we'll say that's cool. Alright, so let's just close this. Alright, so for my scratches, I'm actually going to paint them in white. Okay, so I'm just going to switch my color to white, and okay. Alright, and I'm just going to save one more time before we start doing this. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to do my scratches white, and that's just because I'm not planning on doing any huge paint chips or massive scratches. I'm just going to kind of rough up the edges a little bit and just do some smaller scratches. And typically when I've seen scratches on mailboxes, usually they're pretty much white. I guess that's just because it's not deep enough to go down to the metal underneath, but it's just into the primer layer under the paint. Okay, so for this, white's probably going to work, but you might want to change that up depending on what you're doing. If you're doing something with some pretty huge paint chips and larger areas of paint missing, you might not want to use white because it's probably not going to look right. So what you could do in that case, or you could even do it on your mailbox if you want to, is you could just add an image of some bare metal underneath your paint layer, and then just add a mask to the paint layer and just paint in there, so you'll see the bare metal where the scratches are. Okay, but in our case, for this, I think white's going to be fine. Okay, so I'm just going to do that because it's a little quicker. Okay, but feel free to do it a different way if you want to. Alright, so I'm just on my layer 1 here, our new layer, and we'll just go in and start painting. Okay, so I'm just going to go in on the top of the body here. Alright, we'll zoom in. Okay, let's actually turn our UVs back on so we can see where our edges are. Alright, just so we know where the damage is going to probably take place. Alright, I'm just going to set the opacity for the UV layer down a bit. Alright, we'll lower it so we can still see it, but we can actually see through a little better. Okay, so we'll take it down to maybe like 15 or so, just so we can barely see it. Okay, and then we'll just go back to the paintbrush, and I'm just going to start going in here and adding some subtle scratches. Let's just make sure our opacity's all the way up to 100%. And I have my flow set to 71% here. Okay, and let's just make sure we're actually on the right layer when we do this. Alright, so we'll go back to layer 1, select it, and we'll just start kind of roughing up the edges here. And you can really take your time when you're doing this. I'm going to have to go a little quicker than I normally would just for the sake of the tutorial, but feel free to go along and really take your time and get them the way you want and where you want them. But yeah, I'll just try to do this as quick as possible, just so you don't have to watch me do it for 2 hours. Alright, so I'm just going to start up here on the corner and just kind of add some subtle, rough looking little patches. Okay, and obviously the corners on the edges there would be typically where you really damage the mailbox from it getting hit or whatever. Alright, so I'm just going to go along and just kind of lay them out. We can go back and kind of fine tune them. Just going to figure out where I want to put them first. Alright, so we'll do a little bit on the back here. And we got to keep in mind that we do have our top actually above this piece, so this is just the edge of the seam. Alright, so we don't want to totally hammer it because it's probably not going to be able to get completely hit with the top blocking it. So I'm just going to go along and just kind of Alright, you can always add some little, crisscrosses, maybe where it got scratched by something. Alright, you just want to be careful not to go, right across the corner like that, because it's not going to look right on the model, obviously, because if it's on the back and, someone scrapes it, they're not going to scrape it right to the corner and then around to the side, okay? So when you do those ones, just, kind of stop at the edge, alright, so it looks more natural, okay? So we'll just move around here, start laying out our placement. And you can put these, wherever you want to. You don't have to match what I'm doing. Again, I'm just going to do it, fairly quick. Normally I'd take, quite a bit of time when I did this and really tweak it. It's always a good idea also to vary the size of your brush so they don't all look the same. Okay, you can do that with the square brackets again. And this is really where the tablet makes all the difference because of the pen pressure. You can go really, really light and get a thin little scratch, or you can go hard on the brush and get a fatter one. Alright, so we'll just add a few. Nothing too major. Don't want to completely overdo it. Alright, so I'm just going to work around, kind of hit all the corners, or most of them anyway. And I'm going to leave this one, not totally hit, just so they all don't look the same. And you can also rotate your brush tip if you want to when you're doing this. It's usually a good idea. I'm using a really small brush, so it's probably not a huge deal if we don't do it, but you can do that just by going into the brush panel again and just clicking up here on the brush tip shape, and then it'll let you actually spin your brush. Alright, break it a little bigger. You can see that it changes the stroke down there. Okay, so typically I do that if I'm changing direction from vertical to horizontal, but again, I'm using such a small brush, it's not really a big deal. Alright, so just close that. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go around just randomly. Alright, and some of these, if they're too intense looking, when we look in max, we can always come in here and just take it down a bit or erase some parts. Alright, I'm just going to move down to the actual top here. And we got to be careful here because of how I laid the UVs out, and I split it right on the corner of the top here. So one side of our scratch is going to be on one piece and the other side is going to be on the other piece. Okay, so you just want to be careful of that, because if you paint a whole bunch on here like this and you don't touch this side, it's going to look weird because you're going to see that perfectly straight edge down the center of our corner back in max. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of hit them both somewhat evenly just so it'll kind of hide the seam on the model. Okay, and the top would probably typically get beat down the most, I would think, so maybe just hit this front edge here. That's our front one because we double chamfered it, so I'm just going to kind of go along and just maybe hit this one a little bit. Alright, maybe I'll just do a kind of a scratch on the front. I might just scratch the top, maybe with a little streak. And again, you just want to try to, kind of match them up here. So if you do it on the bottom one side, you want to do it on the bottom a little bit on the other side, just so it'll kind of match. These might not be the most realistic looking scratches, but that's okay. You can really take your time and fine-tune them if you want to, but again, I'm just trying to be as quick as I can. Alright, so the upper door here, that's probably going to take a fair bit of abuse from people grabbing it and banging stuff into it, so let's just maybe hit this a little bit. It's going to kind of hit the edges. You can always turn your UVs off too, if it makes it easier to see the actual edge. This part here would be sticking out a little bit, so I'll hit that. You can always put a couple little scrapes on there, and maybe across here. Alright, we'll just continue on, move it along. We're just going to hit this one a little bit where the seam would be. And maybe on the lower corners it might get hit there when they open it up to unload the box. Right, and for the keyhole here, obviously when they open that up, the keys are going to smash the surface over and over and over again. So I'm just going to kind of ding this little piece here on the lip just with some random little scratch mark, so it looks like maybe it got chipped by the keys. Alright. Maybe hit this edge a little bit. Okay, and we'll just keep moving. Move over to this one. This one will probably take it pretty good too, so let's just hit the corners. Alright, on the bottom of our slanted piece that would probably get hit too. So just kind of going to shrink my brush a little bit. And you want to try to get this right on the edge if you can. Alright, maybe down here. This part would be where the hinge is when they open up that door, so it'd probably take some abuse. I'm just going to turn off the UVs so it's a little easier to see. Kind of missed the edge there. I'm just going to go to the eraser and just get rid of that. Alright, if there's any that you can just lay them in. If they don't really look right, you can just go back and just get rid of them until you're happy. Okay, maybe like that. Just taking a look here. Alright, so let's zoom out. Alright, so I'm just going to do a save here quickly, and we'll check it out in max and see if we have to remove any of these or tone them down a bit. Alright, so save. Okay, so let's just jump over to max and just take a look. Okay, so I might have overdone it a little bit, I think. Right, this one's not really looking right up here on the top, so I think I'm going to get rid of that. Not really liking the look of all these little tiny lines here, so I think I might take a couple of those out as well. Let's just check the corners out up here. Okay, you can see right here where the seam was. It kind of looks weird, so we're going to have to tweak that too. Okay, so let's jump back over to Photoshop. Okay, and let's just zoom in on this top piece here. Alright, we'll go to the eraser. Okay, so I think I'm going to get rid of some of this here. Right, you can kind of use the eraser to break them up if you go really, really light on it. Right, or you could change the brush tip to something a little regular and just kind of break these up a bit. But I think I'm going to kind of get rid of this one. Let's turn our UVs back on. I'm just going to zoom in here. So I'm going to kind of get rid of some of it. I think it looked a little too blotchy. Alright, break this up a bit maybe. Alright, this one up on top, I'm not really loving that either, so I'm just going to take it out for now. Okay, I think it's a little too fat looking. Alright, so let's zoom back out. Alright, so on the corner up here, just going to go back to the brush and just maybe just hit this a little bit more on the corner. Let's zoom out a bit. I think I'm in too close. Alright, this one might be a little too intense, but we'll see how it looks. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of follow the edges down a bit. Alright, and this one up on the back might be a little too big as well. Okay, so I'm just going to try to erase some of it. And you again, take your time and really fine-tune these. I'm just trying to be really quick, so Normally I'd spend quite a bit of time going back and forth, but you can do that. Alright, so let's turn the UVs off and we'll just do a save and just check that out. Okay, back in Max. Alright, they will look better when we actually, have lighting in here and a spec map, but yeah, I think I'm gonna dump that one right there. These look a little too intense, I think, here. I don't think this would get chipped that much. And this looks a little strange too. Okay, so let's go back in to Photoshop. Alright, so I'm just going to go up on the top corner of the body here and just maybe break this up a little bit. Alright, so we'll use a really small eraser brush, and I'm just going to kind of go in here and take a little bit of it away. Let's break up this. Check our UVs. Okay, let's get rid of this little guy here maybe. Just break this up a little bit. I think it's a little too long looking. Okay, and we'll just continue on. This one I might leave a little more intense and big. Let's break that up a bit. Alright, this one looks kind of off the edge, so let's just get rid of some of that. Alright, let's go up here. Alright, so up on the top here, I think this one's a little too insane. Okay, so let's tone it down a little bit. I'm just going to kind of erase some of it. Alright. I don't think I want it to go all the way down the corner there, so I'll take some of it out. Same up on this side. Try to get rid of some of it. And I mean, again, this will depend on how damaged you want yours to look. You can go more or less. It's up to you. Alright, so the one on the front, I'm not loving it, so let's just get rid of it completely. Okay, and some of these ones on the front of the doors here, it looks a little overdone, so I'm just going to maybe trash these guys up here, maybe this one. Alright, let's get rid of this little scratch here too. We can always go back and add them if we feel it needs it, but I think it's looking a little too sporadic. Alright, so let's get rid of this one. And I might get rid of this one as well. Alright, this one doesn't look that great, so I'm going to take it out and just maybe paint it again. Okay, so we'll go back to the paintbrush. I'm just going to shrink the brush down pretty small and just hit this again quickly. Okay, and you don't have to hit every single corner. It might look better if they're not on every corner, a little more realistic, so I might just take this one off as well. Okay. Alright, so let's turn the UVs off again, and I'll just go back and save, and we'll check it out in Max one more time. Alright, so a little better. And again, the damage on this thing and the condition is way overdone, obviously. You're never going to see a mailbox that's this hammered and beat down, but that's okay. Just for the sake of the tutorial, it doesn't matter. Alright, so that's a little better. Alright, I don't think I like this one up here, so I might get rid of that one. Okay, so let's go back to Go to Photoshop, okay, and I'm just going to get rid of it. It's right here. Take that down a bit. A little too big, I think. Alright, so just take one more look, see if there's anything else I want to change. And again, you can take, all day doing this. But I don't want to spend too much time on it, so let's just save and we'll see if that's good enough for these guys. Okay, I think the last one I'm going to do is just maybe tone down this guy here. And this also doesn't look right because if this was scratched, obviously the top right by it is going to be scratched as well. And I only have it on the bottom, so you can either add some to the top to make it look like it blends the two pieces together, or take it out entirely. I think I might just tone it down a bit. And this one here on the corner, I think I'm going to tone that down a little bit too. Okay, so let's go back one more time. So these guys up here. Right, back to the eraser. This one, I'm not loving it, so let's just tone it down a bit. Might leave a little bit of it there, but not that much. Okay, and this one I think looked a little too long, so let's maybe just break that up a bit. Okay, and that one too. Alright, so just take one last look. I might tone this one down here. I just don't want every corner to be, scratched the exact same. Alright, so we'll get rid of some of that guy. Alright, the front I think is okay. Let's maybe take a little bit off this one. Straighten that one up maybe. Alright, I might also take this one off a bit. Alright, so I think we'll say that's good enough. I don't want to spend too much time, like I said. So you can go as much as you want until you're happy, and let's just check it out one last time, make sure it's okay. Okay, so that's probably good enough. So what I'm going to do next is just add maybe some scuffs to the bottom just so they kind of match, alright, because that's going to get kicked and stuff, and ding just like the top would. Okay, so we should add some up there. Alright, so let's go back to Photoshop. Okay, so I think we can probably start adding some of the actual logos and everything to this. So let's just go out, and I'm just going to open up this reference image that we used when we model it, just so I can see where the labels are at. Okay. And we'll go back and just open up maybe let's maybe start with these guys here. Just make these a little bigger. Alright, so we'll take this logo here that goes on the side and just open that up. Alright, and I think for this I'm just going to try to select the white part. So I'm just going to go to the magic wand and just click on it. Alright, let's click on the red, and then I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-I to invert the selection. Okay, and we'll just copy out the center piece here. Control-C. Alright, go back to our map, and we'll just paste this in. Control-V. Okay, it's going to be a little too big, obviously. Right, let's turn our UVs back on. Alright, so we'll just move it up here, and we're going to have to scale it down. Let's just check our reference again. Alright, so just want to make sure I have it facing the right way, which I don't. Okay, so let's just put this one over here. Okay, and we'll do Control-T, and I'm just going to scale it on the corner holding Shift. We'll just go down a little bit to shrink it up. Alright, just a bit like that. I'm going to try to center it on the side panel. Okay, and it looks a little bent here. Let's just check this. Alright, so with Control-T again, I'm just going to try to rotate it, and you can do that by just going outside the box here and just clicking and dragging. Alright, so just try to rotate it so it's a little straighter. Okay, and then hit Enter. Alright, so that's okay. I think it's too big though. Let's scale it down a little more. Alright, we can always check this in Max and see how the placement is. So I'm just going to stick it maybe right like there. Just for now, hit Enter. Okay, and then we want one on the other side, so I'm just going to grab a ruler and just drag it down so I can see where the bottom is. Alright, so they'll be even. And you can turn your rulers on just in the view panel, just go down and hit rulers, okay? And then you can just drag from the bar down and it'll give you a ruler in either direction, okay? And if you want to get rid of them, you can just drag them up into the top and they'll disappear. Alright, so let's copy this again, Control A, Control C, Control V. Alright, we'll drag it up and push it on the other side there, and we want to have it facing the other way, so let's do Control T, right click, flip horizontal. Alright, and let's just try to position it on that line. Okay, maybe just like that, hit enter. Alright, so we should probably check this out inside of Max just to get a better idea of how it's actually going to look on the model. Okay, so let's turn off the UVs and we'll just go up and File and Save. Alright, just update the changes on our saved one and we'll go back into Max here. Alright, so I'm just going to get rid of this skylight by deleting it. We don't need it anymore. Okay, and let's just go back into the render dialog. And I think I'll just do this with a standard shader. So I'm going to change the renderer back to just scanline. Alright, and again, I'm not going to go over the rendering process just because I usually use VRay to render, and it can take a lot of time tweaking the materials and everything and setting up the lights. So yeah, I'll just leave that to you and whatever renderer you use, but we'll just use scanline to set up our material. Okay, so we'll switch that back, open up the material editor, okay, and we'll just grab a new material, open up the diffuse map box there, choose bitmap, and then we'll just go to the desktop, find our Mailbox diffuse, and just say open, and okay. Alright, and then we'll turn on show in viewport, and just drag and drop it. Alright, it's going to look pretty dark in here because we don't have any lighting, but just check the placement of these. Alright, so they look like they could go back maybe a little bit. Alright, so let's go back to Photoshop, and we'll just move them a little bit again. Turn our UVs back on first. Alright, so I'm just going to push it a little bit back towards the back there. Grab the ruler again. Okay, let's grab the other one. I'll just move it back a little bit. Alright, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. I mean, you can only see one side of the box at a time, so you would never notice if they're not the same, but we'll try to center them as best we can. Okay, and the size, I guess, looks about right, so I think I'll leave it at that size. Okay, so let's turn off the UVs and just save again. And we'll jump back into Max and just see how that looks. Alright, so I think it's probably close enough. You can adjust the placement a little more if you want to, but for the sake of speed I'll just leave it like that. Okay, and let's actually name these. So for layer 1, let's just call it something like maybe wing logo or something, just so we know it's that one. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy the name out, Control C, and we'll paste it into our layer 2 name, and just add a 2. Okay, and I'm going to leave these just on normal and 100% right now, okay, because we'll probably overlay some dirt on it. Okay, so it'll break it up a little more than it is right now. Alright, so let's take a look at our reference picture here. Alright, so we got those done. We're going to have to add some of these labels to the front and the Canada text to the bottom down here. Alright, so you might want to do that next. Alright, just going to close this, we don't need it anymore. Okay, so we'll add that Canada writing. Alright, so let's go open, back into our texture folder, just grab it here, and open. Okay, and for this I'm just going to select the black with the magic wand, and then hold Shift and just select the insides of the A's and the D. Okay, just so we have everything, and I'm going to invert it, Control Shift I, so just the white text is selected, and then we'll Control C to copy the text. Alright, and we can close that. Alright, jump back over here, and I'm just going to paste it on top of our Wing Logo 2 layer. Alright, it's going to be way too big, so let's Control T it. Alright, and we'll just scale it way down. It'll go pretty small here. Alright, we'll just drag it down. Alright, this is our lower door here, and that's where we want it, right on the bottom there. Alright, we might actually be able to open up our other picture that we had. This one here. Alright, so yeah, it's just down on the lower door. Oops. Forgot to enter that, so I'll just scale it down again. Alright, drag it down. Might go a little smaller. Alright, so I'm going to stick it maybe like right there and just hit enter. Okay, let's zoom in. Let's turn our UVs on too. Alright, so I'm just going to try to center it on the door. Okay, just like that maybe. And I think I'll just leave it at normal and 100% for now as well. Okay, so let's fit this back on screen. I'm just going to get rid of this ruler here, we don't need it. Okay, and we'll turn our UVs off. Alright, and just save one more time. And just check the updated one in Max. Alright. I just want to make sure I didn't do it too big or too small. Might have to go down a little bit in size. Okay, so let's do that. Alright, so Control T, and we'll just scale it ever so slightly. Enter. Okay. Alright, let's check that out. Save. Alright, that's probably a little better. Don't want it to be too massive on there. Okay, so let's just name that, and we'll just call it, I don't know, Canada logo. Okay, just so I know what it is. Okay, so we'll just continue on and add the rest of the labels. Alright, I think I'll do this blue Canada Post one next. Okay, so let's go File, Open, back into our folder, and I just have this one here. Alright, so I'm going to open this one up. Alright, and I'm just going to copy the whole thing, Control A, Control C. Alright, we'll close it, and we'll just paste it, and I'm going to paste it on top of the Canada logo layer. Alright, Control V. Alright, so there it is there. Alright, so I'm just going to turn the UVs on. Okay, we want this to be on our top door, so I'm just going to move it down. Okay, and let's zoom in on that. Alright, so just going to check our reference again. Alright, so it looks like it goes the entire width of the door. Okay, so we're going to have to scale this up a bit. Alright, it's going to maybe, lose a little quality when we do that, but it shouldn't be too bad. Alright, so let's Control T, and I'm just going to scale it on the corner, holding Shift. Alright, just so it's close to the full width of our door. Alright, maybe like that, just hit Enter. Okay, I'm just going to turn off the UVs for a second, just to make sure the position is where we want it. Alright, and you can see it has this slate blue border around it. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I couldn't find a better resolution one, so that's why I'm using this one, even though it's a little pixelated. Alright, so I'm just going to drag a selection around the side there, just the edge, and delete, get rid of it, and then the same with the bottom here. Delete that. Okay, just to clean it up a little bit. Alright, so let's just get it in there. Alright, maybe like that. Let's zoom out. Okay, and again, I'm just going to leave it at normal and 100% for now, and we might change that after. Alright, so let's also add the delivery times up here, or the pickup times, I guess it is. Alright, and I couldn't find a picture of just this by itself, so I think I'm actually going to try to cut it off of this picture and use it. Okay, so let's just go to the selection tool again, and I'm just going to drag the selection around this, get most of it. Just want to chop the ends off because they're on an angle, obviously. So maybe like that, okay, and then we'll just Control C, copy it out, and let's paste this on. Alright, and we'll just move it up for a second. Alright, let's name these layers too. So I'm just going to name this one collection times. Okay, and the other one here, we'll just call this Canada Post. Okay, just so we can keep track. Alright, so let's select the collection time one again, and I'm just going to move it down here to the door. Alright, we'll zoom in. Alright, turn our UVs on. Alright, let's take another look here. Alright, so it doesn't go the full width of the door. Alright, so let's do Control T. Alright, and we'll just scale it down. Okay, and we'll just move it over into the center here. Try to center it. Alright, and enter. Okay, so let's just turn the UVs off, see how it looks. Alright, so let's fit to screen again. Okay, so I'm just going to save and check it out in Max just to make sure it looks like it's sitting there okay. Okay, so when you get in closer, you're gonna notice it's kind of blurry, but at a distance back here, it should look right. Okay, and I think the size is pretty good, and the placement's about right too. Okay. And again, I'm just going to leave it at normal and 100% for now. Okay. So yeah, we're getting there. We're going to have to start adding our dirt and grime pretty soon. I think before I do that though, I'm just going to add like a graffiti tag to the side, just to give it a little more detail. Okay. So I'm just going to turn the UVs back on, and we'll go out and open up one here. Alright, I have this one saved. Okay, so I'm just going to open that up. Alright, and for this I'm just going to try to select just the text, so I'm going to use the magic wand again. Let's try clicking on the black actually and see if we can select it that way. Alright, so we'll just click on the black, hold shift, and just click on the top of the eye there, and we'll do Control C, copy it, and then we'll go back and just paste it. Control V. Okay. Now let's just move it up. Alright, it's way too big. Let's do Control T, and we'll just scale this down a bit. It doesn't need to be that massive. Alright, and I'm just going to stick it up here, I think. Alright, I might rotate it. Chances are some dude wouldn't write it perfectly straight when he was tagging it. Okay, so we'll give it a bit of an angle. Alright, maybe like that. I'm just going to leave it overlapping the logo here a bit. Okay. And let's name this tag, so we know what it is. Well, let's also change the blend mode to maybe multiply. Alright, we'll see how that looks. Alright, I might take the opacity down just a little on that, so it's not so intense. Alright, let's go maybe 75 or so. That should be okay. And again, we'll overlay some dirt and stuff to kind of blend it in a bit better. Alright, so let's zoom back out, turn off our UVs. Alright, do a save. And we'll just see how it looks in Max. Alright, so it might be a little too big, and I think it's a little too close to the front here too. Okay, so let's go back and just Control T again and just scale it down a little smaller. And again, you can put this wherever you want. You don't have to put it right here if you don't want to. Alright, so that might be a little more manageable. Okay, so let's save one more time and just check it out. Alright, so yeah, I think that size is better. Okay, so we'll do that for the tag. And you can add more if you want to, but I think I'll just do the one for now. Okay, so I'm just going to close the tag. We don't need that anymore. Alright, and I don't think we really need this open right now either. You'll notice it has another label here, this Express Post one. And the only reason I didn't add that is because I couldn't find a good picture to use for the texture, and I don't think cutting it off here is really going to work too good. So I'm just going to leave that off, and it's not on every mailbox that you see, but some of them do have it, but we'll just leave it off. Okay, so let's just close this for now. We don't need it open. Alright, so before we add the dirt and the grime to this, I'm just going to add one more detail to the other side of the body here, and it's actually my brother Ben's idea. He thought it might be cool if I added like a shoe print or a boot print to the side of it, just so it looks like, you know, maybe someone kicked the mailbox over at some point, and I'm sure that happens all the time, so I thought it was a pretty good idea, so I'm just going to add that now. So we'll go open again, and I just have a tread pattern here that I found online, so I'm going to open that up. Alright, we'll just copy the whole thing, Control A, Control C, and then close it. Alright, I'm just going to paste it on top of the tag layer here, Control V. Alright, so we should probably shrink it down. You know, the guy would have to be, you know, massive to have a foot that big, so let's just Control T it, and I'm just going to spin it around so it's upright. And I'm just going to put it on maybe a slight angle. Okay, and I'll move it over here and let's scale it down. Way too big. Alright, we'll just position it somewhere here and just hit enter. Alright, you can turn our UVs on too. Alright, so let's maybe change the mode to multiply to get rid of our white. And I don't want to leave it just you know, perfect like that, because that's going to look totally phony. So let's take the opacity down a bit. Try to blend it in a little. Alright, I might just set this to like 50 or so right now, and then I'm just going to take the eraser, okay, and just switch my brush to something that's a little more irregular. Alright, we'll just grab something. Let's just take one of these. Okay, Okay, and I'm just going to go in and just kind of erase maybe the heel of it. I don't think we need the whole thing like that. Okay, and let's actually take the opacity down on the brush a little. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of feather parts of it out a bit so it's not so perfect. Alright, try to make it look a little more natural. Alright, get rid of some of the front. The ball of the foot would actually be obviously the part that really hammers it the hardest, so it would leave more of the print there, I think, than the rest of the foot. Alright, so just like that. Okay, pretty simple, and you can leave this off if you want to, or you can change the position of it, doesn't matter. Alright, so we'll just do it like that for now, and I might come back later on and actually add some, some scuffs or some streaks to that. But for now, we'll just leave it. Okay, so let's name it. I'm just going to call it boot print. Alright, and let's zoom back out, fit the screen. Okay, and let's just check it out in Max one more time. So I'm going to turn off the UVs and just save it. And we'll go back over to Max and just take a look. Alright, so yeah, there it is there. Just subtle. It'll just give it a little more detail. Okay. Alright, so not looking bad. Okay, we got a little ways to go yet, but for a start, it's decent, I think. Okay, so let's jump back over to Photoshop. I think I'm just going to add maybe some slight scratches to the surface, and this will really depend on how beat up you want your box to be. I'm overdoing it a little bit, obviously. You rarely see a mailbox that's actually this trashed, but just for the sake of the tutorial, there's nothing to say that we can't really wreck ours if we want to, but that'll be up to you. But I'm going to add a little bit more damage, I think, so we'll go open, and I just have this scratch map here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the whole thing, Control A, Control C, and then close it, and we'll just paste this on top of let's just paste it on top of the boot print layer for now. Alright, Control V. And it's a 2K map, so it fits our size perfectly. And we could scale it down a bit, but I might just try it like this and see how it looks. Alright, and we're going to have to go pretty subtle on this, else it's going to look probably pretty bad. So let's just change the mode to maybe multiply. Okay, and we'll take the opacity way down on this. Alright, just want it to be just subtle. Alright, so I might go maybe around 30% opacity. Alright, and again, adjust that to wherever you feel it needs to be. Okay, so if you turn off the layer, you can see the difference it made. Alright, it's subtle, but we don't want to overdo it totally. Alright, and we can always change some of these after if we think it's a little too intense. But for now, I'm just going to leave it, and let's just call it maybe paint dings or something. Okay, or scratches or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Okay, and let's just save this again. Go back to Max and just see how it looks. Alright, so just going to add, a little bit more wear and tear to it. Alright, so let's go back over, and I think we're probably about ready to start adding some dirt to this. And I think I'm just going to start by adding maybe some slight grunge to the body here. Okay, so let's go back out and open. Alright, just going to look for my grungy maps. Alright, I got one here. This guy. Okay, so I think I might use this. So we'll open this up. And this is a fantastic grunge map. It's a little blurry, but I'm just going to use it for some subtle dirt, so it should be fine. Okay, and if you have another one you want to use, you can. I'm just going to copy the whole thing and close it. And I'm just going to paste this right above our paint color variation layer down here at the bottom. Alright, so Control V. Okay, and we'll just position it. And I'm just going to worry about the upper part right now. Alright, I might scale this down a little bit. Alright, do about half at a time maybe. Alright, so we'll just place it in here. Okay, hit enter, and then I'm going to copy it again, Control A, Control C, and then paste it with Control V. Alright, and we'll just move this one over here, just so it covers the other half. Okay, and I might flip this, Control T, and then flip horizontal. Alright, just so we can blend the color together a bit better. Alright, just going to move it up a little bit, just want to make sure you don't clip the top here. I might erase some of this, I think, anyway. Alright, so I'm just going to stick it like that, not going to worry too much about it. Okay, and then we'll just combine the two with Control E. Alright, and let's just go to the healing brush again, and I'm just going to quickly just patch this seam out right here in the middle. Alright, so we'll say Alt, click. Okay, and we'll just go along. Try to hide it a bit. And I think we'll do this on a really low opacity, and I am going to probably erase the upper half of it, so you don't need to worry too much about getting the seam perfect. Alright, let's just get rid of these tiling ones right here. Okay. So no masterpiece, but you can take more time if you want to. Alright, so let's change our blending mode to multiply. Okay. And that's going to get rid of some of the white, so we'll just see the dark stuff, okay? And then I'm going to take the opacity down quite a bit. I don't want it to be too overpowering. Alright, so we'll go way down, maybe like 20%. Alright, just subtle. I might do, let's do 25%, and again, you know, if it looks too intense to you, just take it down until it looks good. Alright, so we'll say that's cool, and I'm just going to erase, I think, the top half of this quickly. We could add a layer mask and actually mask it out, but I don't think we really need to, so I'm just going to use the eraser. Alright, I'm going to just switch it to a bigger soft brush. Let's try maybe 35 here. Alright, we'll just make the size a little bigger. Okay, and I'm just going to take the opacity back up. Try it on 100, okay, and we'll just kind of get rid of some of this up here on the top half. So I'm just going to kind of sporadically erase. And you know, generally it's good to, you know, use masks instead of the eraser, so you're not actually destroying any of your layers, but for this I think it's fine to do it this way. Alright, so just really quick and simple. Alright, it's going to be really, really subtle, but you can see the difference there. Okay, so every little bit will help build it up. And let's name this. Just going to call it body dirt or something, just so I know it's dirt. Okay. And you could add a little bit of that to the lower door here too, but I think I'm just going to leave it like this, and we'll add a little bit of dirt to the bottom down here. Alright, so we'll just open up one here, and I think for this I'm going to use the this grunge 2 one I have. Open this up, and this is pretty nasty looking as well, but it should work okay for doing this. Okay, so let's copy the whole thing, Control A, Control C. Alright, and we'll just do this on the base down here, so I'm just going to paste this in, Control V. Alright, just move it down. And I'm just going to move this layer up above our gray base. Okay, just like that. Alright, so we'll just move it down to the bottom. Alright, we don't want this to be too crazy intense, so we might erase some of it as well, but let's just copy it, Control A, Control C, and paste with Control V. Alright, just so we can get the full width. Alright, maybe like that. I'm just going to try to line it up so the edge of the image is right in the crack there, so it's less noticeable on the seam. Okay, just do that, and then we'll combine them both. Control E. Alright, let's get rid of the overlaying part here, so I'm going to select that upper part. Alright, we can probably leave this actually on this little base piece here. Okay, so we'll just drag a selection like that, and let's zoom in. Okay, and back to the selection. Alright, if you hold down Alt, it'll let you remove a piece of the selection. Okay, so I'm just going to drag around the bottom and the top of the base, holding Alt. Okay. Alright, zoom back out. Alright, and we'll just hit delete to get rid of that stuff. Okay. Alright, so let's change the blending mode here. Alright, and let's maybe try overlay for this. Alright, and we'll take the opacity way, way down. Alright, I want it to be really, really subtle. Okay, just a bit. We'll do maybe like 31 or so on the opacity. And we'll just name this base dirt. Alright, and it's not looking fantastic right now, but we'll tweak it a little bit and overlay some other stuff. Alright, so let's just go out and open up another picture. Alright, and for this I think I'm just going to use concrete. So open this one up, And it's a fairly, plain concrete. You don't want to use anything that's too damaged or wrecked, because it's going to not probably look very good to work as a grunge map. But I'm just going to go to the healing brush here and just get rid of these little white specks. Alright, shrink the brush way down. Alright, so I'm just going to alt click and then click on these guys just to get rid of them. Alright, let's get rid of a couple of these. It's not really going to matter too much. We're going to probably get rid of some of this anyway. Okay, so we'll just copy it. Control A, Control C, and close. Okay, and we'll just paste it on. Control V. And let's just move it down to the lower part of the base. Okay, and we'll copy it again. Control A, Control C, paste it again with Control V. Alright, so I'm just going to put these along the bottom. Alright, let's flip it. Control T and flip horizontal. Hit enter. Okay. And we'll do it one more time. Control V and just fill in the end. Alright, just like that maybe. Okay, and let's combine all three of these layers with Control and then hit E. Okay. And I might just copy this out right now. Control A, Control C, and I'll paste it again. I think I'm going to put it on the upper parts up here too. So I'm just going to drag that up there for now. Okay. And we'll go back down to layer 3. Alright, let's get rid of this stuff here. So I'm just going to use the selection tool again and just drag a selection across the top there. Alright, hold Alt and just deselect our base piece. Alright, and then we'll hit delete to get rid of it. Okay, let's change the blending mode on this to maybe overlay again. Just going to select the red paint layer again, and then with the magic wand just click on that layer. Okay, and then we'll go up to the layer 4 here and just hit delete. Okay, just to remove that from the body again. Okay. And let's just combine layer 3 and 4 together. Control E. Okay, and we'll just switch this back to overlay again. And I'm just going to go in and erase some of it. Okay, so with the eraser again, I'm just going to kind of go in along the base here and just tone this down a bit at the top. We're kind of losing our gray color there, so. Alright, we'll just do this really quick. Alright, we can always adjust the levels and play with the contrast. Alright, so just get some of it off the top because it would accumulate obviously along the bottom more than up here. Okay, so just like that maybe. And I'm just going to leave it up on these pieces because it's at the bottom and that's fine. Okay, so let's just give this layer a name. Alright, so we'll go over here and I'm just going to call it maybe base grime, or name it whatever you want. Okay, and let's just maybe see if we can adjust this a little bit. So I'm just going to go up here to image, down to adjustments, and we'll open up the levels box for a second. Just going to tweak it a little bit. I don't want it to be too intense. We might actually layer some more stuff on here, so we'll try to keep it somewhat subtle. Alright, that's too dark. And again, this will, depend on your monitor. If it looks too bright or too dark, just adjust it to where you feel it needs to be. Alright, so I'm just going to do a little adjustment like that. We'll say OK, and then I'm also going to open up the hue saturation here. Alright, I'm going to take the saturation down a little bit just to get rid of some of that color. Alright, just slightly. Alright, let's play with this too. Alright, that's way too dark. Alright, so I'm just going to tweak it a bit, so we'll do like -50 on the saturation, -5 on the lightness, but that'll depend on, again, your monitor, okay? Okay, so it's not looking too bad, it's looking a little concrete-like right now, but we'll fix that later. I'm actually just going to layer some more stuff on here. Okay, so we'll open up another image. I'm just going to use the bare metal, I think. Okay, and let's just grab a chunk of this. Alright, I might take this piece right here. Alright, and we'll do Control C, copy it, close it, and we'll just paste it on. Control V. Alright, I'm just going to do Control T. Alright, and just rotate this by right clicking 90 degrees clockwise. Alright, I just want to get some scuffs and stuff on here, so that's why I'm doing this again. Alright, so just say enter there maybe. Alright, I think we got a couple of screw holes here, or screw heads I should say. Alright, as you can see, so let's get rid of those quickly with the healing brush. Alt click. Alright, we'll just click on each one and get rid of them. Okay, and then let's zoom back out. Alright, I'm just going to copy this again, Control A, Control C, and paste it with Control V. Alright, just going to flip it horizontal, maybe flip it vertically. Alright, just to change it up a bit. Okay, we got a bit of a shadow line here, so we'll get rid of that in a second. Let's just overlap them. Alright, hit enter, and then we'll paste it one more time. And just fill in the last piece. Okay, like that. Alright, so let's combine them. Alright, I might just actually delete this piece here on the middle one. Alright, so I'm just going to drag a selection around that shadow and just delete it. Alright, we still have a bit of it on the background, but that's okay, we'll fix it. Alright, so let's combine all three of those with Control E. We'll go back to the healing brush, and we'll just try to get rid of this. So I'm just going to click over here on the lighter part, okay, and we'll just kind of paint back and forth on this, see if we can get rid of that. Alright, and we'll do this one over here. And again, take more time, and you can do a way better job than this. Alright, so we'll just do that, okay, and then let's delete it from up here. Alright, delete, get rid of it. Okay, so for this one, I might actually copy this and overlay it on our legs up here too, so I'm just going to do that right now. So Control A, Control C, Control V. Alright, and we'll just drag this up to the top again. Alright, just stick it maybe something like that, and then let's combine them. Control E. Okay, and then we're going to go back to our paint layer, and with the magic wand just select the paint layer again, and then go back up to our new layer and hit delete. Okay, just like that. And I think for this one I'm just going to try it on multiply, which is going to darken it up significantly, as you can see. Alright, so let's take the opacity down a little bit. I don't think it needs to be that dark. Alright, we'll do maybe 70 or so and on multiply. Okay. And I'm just going to call it base grime 2. Okay. So let's just do a save quickly, and we'll jump over into Max and just see how it looks. Alright, so it's looking a little too dark, I think, on the base. Alright, I don't want this to be that yellow or brownish looking. Okay, so we'll have to tone that down a bit. Okay, so let's go back to Photoshop. So before we actually paint the scuffs on the base, I'm just going to see if I can improve the look of our scratches. So I'm just going to zoom in here a couple times just so we can kind of see them up close. Alright, and then let's go down and make sure we have that layer selected still. Layer 1, okay, and let's actually change the name. We'll call it scratches. Alright, so we can keep track. Alright, so I'm just going to see if I can give these a little more depth. Okay, so let's go up and add a layer style to it. Alright, layer style, and I'm going to do a stroke. Okay, open that up, and we'll take the size down to 1 pixel. Alright, I'm going to leave the position on outside, and let's change the color here. Alright, I did a test before, so I'm just going to do a medium gray, so I'm going to do 9F, 9F, 9F. Okay, so just like a medium tone gray. We'll say OK, and then I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply to darken it up. Alright, and we'll leave the opacity at 100%, and hit OK. Alright, so you can see it here. You can always turn that on and off with the little eye down here. Okay, so it's subtle, but I think it just adds a little more pop to it. It makes it look a little more like it's actually scratched into the paint layer. Okay. It could also give, maybe the look that it might be starting to rust the metal underneath. Alright, so just a little more realistic, and if you don't like the look of it, you can tweak it, or you can just leave it off entirely, but I think it just adds a little extra to it, so I'm going to do it. Alright, so now we'll start painting the scuffs on the base, and we're almost done here, I think. Okay, so for the scuffs down here, I'm just going to create a new layer above our scratch layer. Okay, and we'll go over and just open up the color box, okay, and let's just tweak this. I'm just going to use a pretty dark gray, I think. Alright, maybe down here somewhere. And okay. Alright, and I think I'm going to set the layer to multiply as well. Okay, so let's just do that first. Okay, and then we'll zoom in on the bottom down here. Let's turn our UVs back on as well. Okay, and I'm just going to go grab the paintbrush again, and I'm going to use the same brush I was using up here on the scratches, and we'll just start kind of scuffing this up a bit. And we'll just start in the corner here. You can tell the corners by the single edge. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here and just start kind of scuffing the corner up so it looks like it might have got kicked by somebody's boot or something else. Alright, I'll just go along and kind of hit each one. Alright, this one too. Alright, and the end one's split in half, so we just got to make sure that whatever we add on this side, we finish off on the other end, just so they match up. Okay, and I'm just going to go in and maybe add just a few little marks on the corners. I'll try to zoom in here so it's a little easier to see. Alright, just on the edges maybe of these pieces a little bit because they stick out and they might get kicked. So I'm just going to kind of do it randomly. Alright, maybe up on the top, some of those might get hit by something. Let's just touch a few of them. Right in the corner maybe. I'm just going to turn off the UVs, make it a little easier to see what we're doing. And you don't necessarily have to do them all the same color. You could, add some color in here if you wanted to. Maybe some to the middle portions. Not liking that one, I'm going to get rid of it. Shrink my brush down a little bit. And so I'm just going to hit kind of where the edge would be. Okay, and we can also do maybe some scuff marks right across the surface, so I'm just going to draw one just in. Alright, maybe like that, and just want to be careful here because obviously if something's scraped across here, it's not going to probably scrape inside the recessed part there. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and actually erase the part that's in the crack. Okay, just so it looks like it actually just scraped the outside and continued along. Alright. So I might just add a few, just randomly. Might not want to do them all in the same direction. So let's go maybe this way. Alright, don't like that. Let's just take it down a bit. Alright, same thing, I'm just going to reach the crack. Alright, and you can add as many as you want. Let's just actually zoom back out. Take a look. Alright, I might add a few more, maybe a little thicker. Alright, so I'm just going to hit it maybe. I don't really like that one. Let's zoom in. Alright, so I'm just going to make my brush a little bigger. And maybe just add one across the bottom here. And then same thing, just go in and kind of get rid of the stuff that's in the recessed part. Okay. Alright, so I think that's probably all I'll do, but if you want to add more, you can. Alright, so let's do a save, and we'll just check it out in Max and see how it looks. Alright, so just take a quick look in Max, check it out. Okay, so that's probably fine for our dark scuffs. Again, adjust it to where you feel it needs to be. Alright, so go back into Photoshop, and let's actually just name this layer before I forget. Don't want to do that. Okay, I'm just going to call it maybe base scuffs dark. Okay, and the reason I'm naming it dark is because I think I'm going to add a few lighter ones on top of it. Okay, just because sometimes when you see plastic like this and it gets scraped, it actually turns lighter, almost white. Okay, so let's add a few of those quickly. Alright, make a new layer above our scuff layer, and let's go change the color. Alright, I'm just going to use a lighter gray shade. Okay, and we'll just go back to the paintbrush, and let's actually zoom in here first. Alright, we'll just add a few of these. We don't need very many. Okay, so let's go back to the paintbrush. I'm just going to turn my UVs back on so we can see our corners, and we'll just go to the paintbrush, and I'm just going to use the same brush again, and I'm just going to go in and just very lightly just add a few lighter scuffs. Okay, just so maybe something hit the corner there, or up here at the top, maybe something scraped it. I might just darken this color up a little bit too. I think it's a little too light. Okay, and we'll just add maybe a streak. I'm just going to shrink the brush down a little bit for that one. Okay, and let's erase the center again where the recess is. Alright, I don't want to overdo it. I'm just going to add a few. And you could even add different color ones if you want to, so it looks like something that was maybe painted or colored actually scraped it. Alright, so I might just do that quickly. Alright, I'm just going to maybe add a slight blue color one somewhere. Just give it a... Alright, let's make sure we're on the paintbrush. Alright, just like that, and yeah, you could do a bunch of different ones if you wanted to. Alright, might just add a brownish one somewhere. Just ding one of these corners. Alright, so really subtle. Alright, turn off the UVs. Okay, I think that's, that's more than enough, I think. And you can do that, as much as you want or as little as you want. Right, I'm not really liking this one up here, so I think I'm just going to trash that one. This one up here. Okay, so we'll say that's cool for the light scratches. Let's actually name that layer while we're at it. Okay. We'll just call it the same thing, base scuffs light. Okay, and I'm just going to leave the blend mode at normal and 100%, I think, for these. Alright, so with that done, let's do one more save and just take a look at Max quickly. Okay, so not too bad. I'm not liking this one right here though, so I'm just going to trash that one. Alright, so back to the eraser, and we'll just get rid of it. Okay, and save again. So I think we're pretty much done the diffuse map. I think what I might do before we finish it up though is I'm not really liking the way this looks here. So I think I'm going to just reorder some of the layers here. Alright, so I'm just going to drag this up a bit so we can see. And I think what I'm going to do is just select the logo layers. So the wing logo 1 and 2, the Canada logo, Canada Post, and the collection ×1. And I'm just going to move them down a little farther in the stack here, just so we get some scuffs and stuff on those as well, so they don't look so plain just sitting there. Alright, so let's just drag those guys all down at once, and we'll go right down underneath the body metal layer and drop them. Okay, and it's just going to darken it up a little bit, and you can see here that it just adds some scuffs and stuff to the labels there, okay, just to make it look a little more dirty. Alright, and just thinking if we need to do anything else before we finish it up. Alright, this color variation 2 layer, I think I might just take the opacity down a little bit more on it so it's not so intense. Okay, I'll take it down maybe to 25%. Alright, just going to see if there's anything else I want to tweak here. Just going to go down to the original paint color variation layer and just tweak that. I think it might be a little too intense. I might just take it down slightly. Alright, let's take that down maybe to like 15% or so, just so it's not so noticeable. Okay, so one last thing I think I'll do, this Canada Post label here on the front, the edges look a little intense, a little sharp, so I think just to blend that in a little better, I'm just going to go and select that layer, and I'm just going to go over to the blur tool. Okay, and if it's not there, you can just hold down the left mouse button and select it. Alright, and mine's set to 87% strength, and I'm just going to maybe blur this edge just quickly, just with one pass in each direction. Okay, just so it's not so wicked intense around the edges. Okay. Alright, so I think that's all I'm going to do, and feel free to tweak it more if you want to until you're happy with the way it looks, but I think that'll take care of the diffuse map for the tutorial. So let's do a save. Okay, so let's just jump back over to Max and just take one last look at it. Alright, make sure everything's the way you want it. Okay, I think I'm going to leave mine like this. It's looking a little dark, but you know, when we get some lights in here it'll look brighter, so I'm just going to leave it. If you want to tweak yours more, you can, but I'm going to move on and do the bump map now, so we'll go back over to Photoshop. Alright, so for the bump map, I'm just going to actually turn off probably quite a few of these layers, and we'll just desaturate most of them and, you know, tweak the brightness and the contrast to get it the way we want. Alright, so I'm going to start on the paint base layer at the bottom there, and we'll just desaturate this to get rid of the color, so let's do image adjustments, desaturate. Okay, just get the red out of there. For the paint color variation, I'm going to do the same thing. Alright, desaturate. Okay, I might just lighten this one up a little bit, so let's do image adjustments, and you can use the hue saturation or the brightness and contrast. I'm just going to open up the hue saturation and just up the lightness here a little bit. Alright, we'll go up maybe like plus 50 or so. Again, that's going to depend on how it looks to you. Alright, so we'll say OK on that, and we can always come back and tweak these after. Alright, so the body dirt layer, I think I'm just going to turn that one off because I don't think we really need it on our bump map. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. And for the logos here on the sides, I'm pretty sure those are actually a sticker stuck onto the side of the box, so I'm going to leave them on the bump map, but if it was painted on, I'd turn them off completely, because you don't want to have any bump showing up if it's just paint. So we'll leave it on, and I'm just going to maybe tone it down a bit so it's not too intense. Alright, so let's do the same thing here. I'm just going to desaturate it. Alright, and then we'll just adjust the brightness here. Alright, so I'm going to tone it down quite a bit. I don't want it to be sticking out too much on the bump map, so we'll go down to like maybe negative 85 or so on the brightness and say OK. Alright, then we'll do the same thing with the second one. Desaturate, brightness, contrast, and we'll just take it down to about negative 85 as well. And OK. And I'm going to do the same thing on the logo here for Canada. And I think that's a sticker. So we'll do the same thing, desaturate, just in case there's any color left in it, and brightness, contrast, and we'll just take that down so it's fairly faint. Alright, I'm just going to cancel that for a sec. I'm going to use the hue saturation. Take that down a little bit. Alright, maybe negative 40 or so on the lightness, and we'll say OK. Alright, the same goes for these guys. I'm pretty sure they're stickers, so let's just I might fill that actually with a solid color. So I'm just going to use the magic wand on the Canada Post layer, just select it, and I'm going to hit Control-Shift-I to invert the selection so we just have the sticker selected. Okay, and then I'm just going to go over here and just grab a medium kind of gray color, and we'll just use the paintbrush here to just fill that in. Okay, just make the brush a bit bigger, and I'm just going to paint over it. Okay, and you can use a soft brush for this. I'm just using the scratch brush still, but either way it doesn't matter. Okay, like that, we'll just fill it in, and let's maybe tone that down a bit. Okay, brightness, contrast, and we'll just take it down. I just want it to be a slight bump. Don't want it to be, you know, intense. So let's take it down to maybe negative 40 or so. That looks probably okay. And we'll say okay, and we'll just repeat the process on the collection times 1. Alright, so we'll select that layer, magic wand. Alright, select it, Control-Shift-I to invert it, and then we'll just paint it again. Fill that in. Okay? Just like that. Okay, let's do a save actually before we keep going here, just in case we have a crash or a problem. Alright, so I'm just going to save this onto my desktop, and we'll just call it Mailbox Bump. And do a PSD again. Alright, save, and OK. Okay, so let's just move up a bit, and for the color variation 2 layer here, this rusty one, I think I'm just going to turn that one off because I don't think we really need it on the bump map. Okay, and let's see if there's anything else we can turn off. Alright, I'm also going to get rid of the paint dings there, those little scratches. We don't need those, I don't think. And the boot print, we don't want that showing up on our bump map, so let's turn that off as well. The tag, we don't need that, so let's get rid of it. Okay. Alright, let's also turn off the slot metal. And I don't think we need the scuffs on here, so let's turn those off. Scuff light and scuff dark. Okay, we don't need those showing up on our bump. Okay, let's also do the text layers here. So I'm just going to select the pole layer and let's just zoom in on it. Alright, we obviously don't want it blue there, so let's actually just go to the text tool and just select it. Okay, and we'll just change the color to maybe a darker gray shade. We want it to look actually pushed into the door, so we want this to be somewhat dark. Alright, so we'll just go down like that maybe, and then say OK. And then I'm also going to open up the rollout here for the effects and just turn off the inner shadow by hitting the eyeball. Okay, because we don't need that showing up either. Alright, and just to make sure it's not too sharp on our bump map, I'm actually going to just blur that, I think. So we'll go up here to filter, down to blur, and we'll just go over and hit blur. Okay, and it'll ask you if you want to rasterize the layer, so just say OK. Alright, now I'll just give it a subtle blur. Alright, just so the edges aren't too sharp on a bump map. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the push layer. Alright, let's just find that. It's up here on the top. Okay, and it's kind of hard to see. It's still there, but I'm just going to change the color on that. Okay, so let's select it. Alright, we'll just change the color. Alright, this one I'm going to make it a little darker so you can see it. Alright, doesn't have to be crazy dark, but maybe like that, or a little darker maybe. Okay, and we'll say OK, and again I'm just going to turn off the inner shadow on that layer, and we'll give it the blur. Alright, filter, blur. Alright, so that should take care of the text layers. Alright, so let's just see what else we want to do. Alright, let's just fit this back on screen so we can see a little easier. Okay, so let's go down maybe to the body metal layer here. Alright, we'll select that, and I'm just going to desaturate it. Okay, just to get rid of any color, and let's maybe adjust the brightness on that one. Just going to open up the hue saturation and do it here. Alright, you want to kind of have just a medium kind of tone of gray over the paint, so it's not, you know, too bumpy looking. Alright, so I'm just going to take that up maybe to, let's do maybe like plus 35 or so for now, and we'll say OK. Okay, and for the gray base plastic color here, I'm just going to actually lighten that up as well. Okay, so we'll do image adjustments, brightness, contrast, and we'll just take the brightness up a bit. Alright, we don't want it to be too intense. Just going to kind of get a medium shade of gray on it. Okay, we'll do maybe 60 or so on the brightness, and OK. Alright, this base dirt layer here, I think I'm just going to turn that off because we don't need it. Alright, let's just do a quick save. Alright, I think we'll turn this one off as well, and we'll just move up to the small splatter. And I do want to keep this one on the bump map, just because if that was actually mud or something splattered on there, it would be slightly raised above the surface. Okay, so I might keep that on the bump map, even if it's just subtle. Alright, so what I might do is just invert it. Alright, so I'm going to hit Control I. Okay, to invert the layer. Okay, and then we'll set the mode up here to screen. Okay, just so we can see through it again. And that looks a little intense. Let's take it down on the opacity. Alright, I just want it to be there subtly, so let's do maybe like 45 or so on the opacity. That should be fine. Alright, so we'll just move on. Alright, so the base grime 2 layer, I'm just going to, I think, desaturate that one as well. Okay, and let's just maybe tweak the opacity a little bit. Right, I'm going to leave it on multiply and just do maybe 60% on that one. You could turn it off if you wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it on. Alright, so we only got a few left. I'm just going to desaturate this foot metal layer, even though it's probably not going to make much difference, but we'll just desaturate that. Alright, and let's just see how the opacity is. Alright, I might just leave that at like 65%. Okay, and then I think we're pretty much just left with our scratch layer. Okay, so let's select that. We want these to be dark, obviously, so they look like they're actually scratched into the surface. So let's just go up and put up the hue saturation. Okay, and we'll just take the lightness down a bit. I don't want to make them pitch black, but we want to darken them up quite a bit. So let's maybe take the lightness down to -86 or so. Just say okay. Let's actually zoom in so we can actually see what they look like. Alright, we still have the stroke turned on, so let's turn that off. Okay. Just see how they look here. Alright, you might want them a little darker than that, so I'm just going to open that back up. Alright, we'll just go down a little darker. Alright, maybe -50 or so on the lightness that time, and okay. Alright, take a quick look. Okay, so I think that should be okay, so let's take one last look. Alright, just make sure I didn't miss anything here. I think we pretty much got everything we needed to. I think I might just brighten up the base paint layer a little bit. So let's do that quickly. Alright, just take the brightness up just a little bit. Do like maybe 20 or so. And okay, and then let's go up to this body metal one. Okay, I'm just going to tweak that a little bit too. Alright, so we'll do brightness contrast. Alright, I'm just going to take the brightness up slightly. Maybe like 15 or so. Okay, I'm going to take the contrast up to maybe like 10 or so. Okay. Alright, so I think that's pretty much everything we need to do for our bump map. Okay, so let's just do another save now that we have it done. And we'll move on and actually start creating the spec map. Okay, so I'm just going to close the bump map and open up our diffuse again. Okay, and I'm just going to start with the diffuse map and just make the spec map from scratch. You could use the bump map if you wanted to, but I'm just going to go back to this and just restart. Okay, so let's just go down to our paint base layer, and we're going to do this a similar way to our bump map. I'm just going to desaturate some of them, and we'll make adjustments. Okay, so for the paint base layer, I'm just going to go and desaturate it. Okay, and let's go to the paint color variation layer. And I'm actually just going to turn this one off, I think. I don't think we need it. Okay, and for the body dirt layer, let's select that. I'm just going to actually invert that layer with Control I. Okay, and then let's, I think I'll leave it on multiply. I might just take the opacity down a little bit. Alright, I still want it to be there subtly, but let's go down to maybe like 20%. Okay. And for our wing logos here, I'm just going to kind of do what I did with the bump map. I'm just going to darken them up a little bit. Okay, so let's desaturate it first. Okay, and then we'll just open up the brightness contrast. Alright, I'm just going to take the brightness down. Right, I want to have a little bit more specular highlight on the stickers because they'd be kind of glossy more than the paint, so I'm going to leave it a little brighter than the paint. Alright, let's do maybe -70 or so. That should be fine for now. Okay, and we'll just do the same with wing logo 2. Alright, desaturate, brightness contrast, and we'll just take it down until it's about the same. Okay, and same with the Canada writing here. Let's just take that down a bit. Alright, desaturate. Just going to use the hue saturation brightness here. And take it down a bit. Maybe -35 or so. Should be fine. Okay, and then for the Canada Post one here, I'm just going to actually desaturate that. Alright, desaturate. And I'm just going to adjust the brightness on it. I'm just going to darken it up a little bit. I think the white would have more of a highlight than the dark blue color, so we'll just take it down a bit, maybe -60 or so. And okay, and then we'll do the same thing with the collection times. Desaturate. And I might just take that down a little bit in brightness as well. I'm going to go down pretty low on this one. Maybe -130 or so. And okay. Alright, then we'll move up to the body metal layer. And we'll just desaturate that as well. Alright, desaturate. Okay, and I'm just going to adjust the the brightness on this one. I'm going to take it down a little bit, make it a little darker. Alright, we'll do maybe -60 or so for now. We can always come back and tweak these after. Alright, for the gray base here, I think I'm just going to leave that as is, and same with the base dirt layer. I think I'm just going to leave that as is too. Okay, so we'll move up to the base grime, and we'll just desaturate it. Okay, let's open up the brightness contrast. I'm just going to take it up a little bit in brightness. I still want it to be fairly dark because if there was, grime and dirt on there, there's not going to be as much of a specular highlight as there would be up here where it's a little cleaner and the plastic's more shiny. Okay, so we'll just go up to maybe like 20 or so. And okay. Alright, and then we'll move up to the base splatter large. Alright, I might just leave that as is. I don't think we really need to tweak it. Okay, and for the small splatter here, we can probably leave that as well. Alright, I might actually just turn off the large splatter. I don't think I really need it on there. Okay, so we'll turn that one off, leave the small splatter as is, and we'll just move up here to the base grime layer. We can probably turn this one off as well. Okay, so we'll just go up to the color variation layer. Alright, and let's desaturate this. Image adjustments, desaturate. Okay, and I'm going to invert it with Control I. Okay, and let's just change the brightness a little bit. Alright, I want to keep the paint fairly dark because it would be really dirty and it wouldn't have a lot of highlight on it, so we don't want to go too bright. Alright, I'm just going to tweak this a little bit. Alright, we do want to have some variation in the highlight though on the surface, so let's take this up to maybe 45 on the brightness, and we'll just leave the contrast pretty much at 0, okay, for that layer, and okay. Alright, the scratches, we want them to be white obviously, so we'll get a nice highlight on them. So I'm just going to turn off the stroke, I think. Alright, we could probably leave the stroke even turned on for that. It's a really small detail, it's not really going to matter. Okay, so for the dark scuffs up here, I think we'll actually leave these. We don't want any kind of highlight on that because if it got kicked or, whatever by a boot, it's going to have like rubber or a scuff mark and it's not really going to have a highlight, so I think I'll just leave it like it is, and we'll move up to the light scuffs, okay, and we do have some color in these ones, so I'm just going to desaturate it. Okay, and we'll just leave it a lighter color on those guys. Alright, so for the foot metal, alright, we can probably leave that one as is, and for the slot metal, alright, I might leave that a little brighter than the rest, just so it has more of a, a metal chromish kind of highlight on it. Alright, might take the opacity down just slightly on it. Alright, let's lower the opacity to maybe like 60% or so, and we'll just leave it as is. Okay, and we'll move on to our text layers. Let's actually just zoom in on this up here. Okay, and I want to leave these somewhat dark just so it looks like maybe some dirt and grime is actually, in those recesses. Alright, so we don't want to have as much highlight on that as we would on the outside part. So let's just open it up, turn off the inner shadow. Okay, and I think I'm going to leave the color just dark gray like that, but I'm going to do the blur like we did on the bump map. Okay, so we'll do filter, blur, okay, and then we'll do the same with the pull text layer. Alright, turn off the inner shadow. Let's actually go and find this. Alright, let's change the color before we do anything. Alright, so back to the text tool, and on the pull layer there, I'm just going to select it, and we'll just change the color on this guy. Alright, maybe like that, and we can probably go a little darker. Alright, I'll just go down to a pretty dark gray, and okay. Turn off our effects, and we'll just do the blur on this one. I'm just going to click off that. Alright, blur, just to blur it out a bit. Okay. Alright, so we're getting there. And again, this is pretty quick to do. It's not going to take us near as long. Alright, so let's select the tag layer, and we'll just go up to that. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to invert it with Control I. And let's change the mode to soft light. Okay, just so we can actually see it. Alright, let's actually zoom out so we can see it against the surface. Okay, I'm just going to take the brightness down a little bit. Alright, so we'll do image adjustments, brightness contrast, and just lower the brightness down a bit. Alright, I want it to have a slightly more specular look to it than the paint, because if it was done with a felt, it might actually be a little bit shiny. So we'll leave it there just a little bit. All right, let's take this down so it's just subtle. Do like maybe -70 or so. That should be fine. And okay. All right, and the boot print, we'll leave that as is, just in case. It should really, I guess, have a bit of a duller highlight on that. You could take it off if you wanted to, but if there was rubber on there or dirt, it's going to be a little bit duller than the rest. Okay, so I think I'm just going to leave it as is for that guy, but you can take it off if you want to. Alright, let's just go down to the foot metal layer there. Alright, I'm just going to desaturate that, even though it probably doesn't really need it. Okay, and we'll leave it pretty dark because these pieces were dark on our reference pictures, and these would be dirty because they're right against the ground, so they're not going to have as much of a highlight as the door up here and the other pieces. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to make another quick pass through. Alright, I might turn off the paint dings. I don't know if we really need those on here. So we'll just turn it off. Okay, I'll just move down. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. Alright, might leave that one. Okay, so I might turn on this base grime layer again that we turned off earlier and just desaturate this one. Alright, let's do an image adjustment on that, brightness contrast. I'm just going to brighten it up a little bit, maybe like 60 or so, and okay. Alright, so I think that's really all we need to do for our spec map. You can take more time and adjust it, and when you actually light your scene and do your render, you might notice that you have to come back in here and brighten parts up or darken them down. But I think for the tutorial, I'm just going to leave it like this, and we'll move on and actually put our shader together in Max. Okay, so I'm just going to do a save of this. Alright, we don't want to accidentally save over our diffuse maps. Let's actually call this spec. Okay, and we'll just do a PSD again, save, and okay. And I think I'm going to save out a JPEG version of each of our maps as well. Okay, you can use a different image format if you want to, but I think I'm just going to do JPEG. Okay, so we'll do a spec JPEG. Alright, I'm going to do them on 12 quality. You can take the quality down a little bit if you want to. Sometimes I save my bump and spec maps on about 10, and I'll do the diffuse at like 12, but I think I'll just leave this at 12 for now. Okay, so that's fine. Let's close that, and let's open up the diffuse map. Okay, and we'll just save a JPEG of this. Alright, save. 12 quality, and okay. Alright, and let's just do the bump map too. And JPEG. Save. And okay. Alright, so let's jump over to Max and set our shader up. Okay, so here we are back in Max, and like I mentioned previously, I'm not going to go through the whole process of lighting and rendering the mailbox. I'll leave that to you guys to do using whatever renderer and light setup you want to use, but I will show you how to quickly just, add a couple of lights just so you can kind of preview what your materials are doing and our maps are doing. Okay, so let's just do that first. I'm just going to jump out here and just add a few lights before we actually put our maps into the material. Okay, so we'll go into the top view. I'm just going to turn the grids on, kind of zoom out, and let's just add a spotlight. Alright, so I'm going to go over to the lights panel, just grab a target direct light, and we'll just drag one out over here somewhere. Alright, I'm going to kind of do it offset to the left, just aiming at the front. Alright, and let's right click up here and just go to views, Directo 1. Okay, and I'll let you actually look through the light. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to the light fall off button, and then just zoom this out a little bit. Okay, and we'll also zoom the hotspot out. Alright, and I'm just going to position this quickly. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it up so it's kind of aiming at the front top of the box. Okay, and let's just see here. Try to get good placement on this. Alright, so I'm going to stick it maybe somewhere like that. Okay, just out front and to the left over here. Okay, and then let's also add maybe an omni light just so we have some backlight. Okay, and this is a really quick light setup, so you can take more time and actually do a proper setup and render. but we'll just do this quickly. Okay, so I'm going to grab an Omni and just stick one over here. That's on the other side, just over to the right there, okay? Just to get some light on this side. Okay, so let's grab our spotlight there and just open up the modify panel. Okay, for this one I'm going to turn shadows on, and let's just do maybe ray trace shadows. Okay, for the color I'm actually going to change this to a slightly yellowish color, yellowish white, just to kind of mimic, you know, sunlight. Alright, so just go up a bit here. It doesn't have to be too yellow, maybe just like that. Okay, and we'll close that. And let's make it a little brighter. I'm going to do maybe 1.3 on the multiplier. Okay, and let's go down to the directional parameters and open that up. I'm just going to tick on overshoot here. Alright, and you can do that if you don't want to actually see the cone of your light in your render. Okay, so we'll turn on overshoot, and then let's select the Omni there. Alright, and I'm not going to turn shadows on for this one. I am going to change the color though. Let's make this one maybe kind of like a medium to light blue. Okay, and I think I'll just leave the multiplier at 1. Okay, so yeah, you can always do renders, or you can right click on the perspective window there, or any viewport, and just go to views, and you can always turn on active shade here. Okay, and it'll give you kind of like a render just in your viewport. Okay, you can't blow it up, but it'll just render it. Alright, so if we make changes to our lights or anything, it's going to update it in real time. Okay, so if you grab your light and you move it, you can see it'll quickly render it again. Alright. So yeah, I'm just going to do it like this because it's a lot quicker than going through the rendering process, but let's just actually get our material in here. Okay, so we'll open up the material editor, and we'll just use the standard material again. I always use V-Ray materials when I render, so I haven't used the standard material in a long time, so I think I'll just kind of keep this really simple. Okay, so let's open up the maps rollout, and let's just change our PSD diffuse map to a JPEG. So I'm just going to click on it here, and then we'll just go to the desktop and find the JPEG version. Okay, there it is, and open. Alright, and let's go back up a level. We'll go down to the specular level box, open that up, we'll choose bitmap, find our specular map. Okay, JPEG, open it. Alright, and let's also add the bump map to the bump channel. Okay, bump and open. Okay, so you can always blow this up to your by dragging the corner. Alright, and if you want to get a better look at your actual material here, you can rotate the sphere. If you right click and go to drag, rotate, it'll actually let you click and drag to spin it. Alright, so you can take a quick look at how everything's working. Alright, it's not looking too bad. I wanted to have a, you know, somewhat dull finish to it, so it looks like it's kind of aged paint. Alright, scratches are looking decent. Okay, so let's maybe add the specular map to our specular color channel. Okay, so we drag it up there, drop it, and it'll ask if you want to instance copy or swap, and we'll just say copy and OK. Okay, and that's going to tone it down quite a bit, probably a little too much. Let's maybe adjust this level here. Let's try maybe 50%. Okay, I just want to get some of the highlight back. Let's try maybe 30%. Alright, you can see down here in real time how it's affecting it. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad actually for a quick lighting job. Alright, so let's just do a really quick render before we finish the tutorial up. Okay, so I'm just going to open up the render dialog. Alright, hit the button, or F10. Okay, and we'll just do this maybe 8x6 from the perspective view, and let's just hit render. And it's not going to look fantastic. You know, our lighting setup is really simple, and our materials are simple as well. We didn't spend a lot of time tweaking them, so it's not a masterpiece, but it doesn't look too bad considering how fast we did it. And like I mentioned, I use V-Ray to do all my renders, and you know, I find it can give you much nicer results than the scanline render. So if you have access to V-Ray or a different renderer, Mental Ray comes with Max. You could always try that if you wanted to, or a different one, and you could probably, you know, really get a nicer quality render than this here. But yeah, like I said, I'll leave that to you, and you know, whatever kind of way you like to set your lights up, or whatever you use for your render, you could just tweak it until you're happy. Okay, and you could also play with the amounts here. We did this really quick, so you know, play around, see if you can improve the quality of the material. You could also, you know, go back into Photoshop and actually tweak the maps themselves, the spec map maybe, if you want to bring some highlights out in different places, or you know, adjust the bump map. But yeah, again, I'll leave that to you, and I think I'll just end the tutorial here, just because it's getting really long. Okay, so apologies, I know I sped through this part pretty quick, but maybe in a future tutorial I'll get a chance to actually go through the rendering process more in depth. But for now, I think I'll leave it like this, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. I think it came out pretty good. A little overdone, not super realistic, but that's okay. So yeah, I hope you got a good model, and I hope you enjoyed watching the tutorial and maybe learned something from it. So I guess that'll do it for this one, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.